Oh my god. Hold on. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Hopefully, everybody's here or able to tune in wherever we're at. I don't know what the heck that is. That's what it is. Yeah. Anyway, so welcome to the show. And hopefully, we can see if we can get some good conversation going on tonight because um, there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on. But tonight, what I wanted to touch basis on was the main thing was the Emerald tablets, and talk about that. I had a good conversation with a friend of mine about it 2 3 days ago, and him and I were just talking about some stuff, and the subject came up, and I was asking him, have you ever read the Emerald tablets by Thoth of Thoth? And he was like, I wanted to, man, and I never got a chance to. But I told him, I was like, here, check out this book, read it or whatever. So I sent him a link um, to the book. And so far, he's just been blown away. This is it right here. It's a great book. I mean, I've annotated this thing all the way through, and I'm like, going to read it again to see if I missed anything. Um, but I love it. I highly suggest that anybody who hasn't read it, um, go get yourself a copy of it because it's definitely worth it. Um, so again, welcome. Like I said, I wanted to talk about that. Talk about some of these really tripped out photos or videos, even of these UFOs or these reverse engineered craft that people have been seeing all over the place. And I mean, getting really good video of it. But at the same time, is it really them capturing it or is it just AI? That's another problem in and of itself is the AI. When do we draw the line of what is real and what is not? I mean, it's getting so bad that even people that are running programs are able to just use people's face depictions that they've gotten downloaded from videos or photos or whatever, and they're using these things for AI. And it's like we're seeing it all the time, and it's crazy. So yeah, I wanted to touch bases on that and see what everybody was thinking, see if anybody had any ideas about it, and hopefully you guys can hear me. I hope you can, because it would really suck if you couldn't. So I'm on Seeker's page on Facebook. See if anybody will respond or if anybody's on there. Um, I will jump back and forth between there and YouTube because it's the only places that are letting me message anybody. Cool. Nice. Yeah, it's the connection because I'm just using my feed, my hotspot. So yeah, it's probably gonna be crappy for a minute. Um, yeah. Thanks to the internet provider that dropped the ball on getting my internet connected. I, you guys are the best. Um, yeah. So what's up, bro? Thanks, man. I appreciate you for being here. You know, um, I appreciate you guys stopping by and checking it out and spreading the word about the podcast. Um, I do, like I said, if anybody wants the merch stuff from the store, you guys can just let me know like what sizes you want and what colors you want, because it's mainly going to be black and gray shirts and black and gray sweatshirts. Um, if you haven't seen it, I'll post some of them on Facebook, and you guys can check them out and review it or whatever. And if you guys want some, then we can get them ordered, and then you guys can have your own merch from the podcast. It's pretty cool. Um, and had that. Um, Getting back into the whole thing about tonight's podcast was the point of when we perceive what is going on. And I'm going to pose the question that I had asked last time we were on this podcast last week. Is this: when is the last time that anybody has felt like things have been normal? And I mean, that makes sense. That is logical. It seems like we see things every day that just makes us question, like, this is like beyond out of control. This is beyond straight up, you know. Oh, I know. Yeah, like I said, message me what you guys want, and then I'll send you the pics of what they are. Um, I don't know. They should be on the podcast on the Facebook page. I took a picture of the designs, so yeah. I posed this question last week, did a couple of times in a couple of other episodes, previous episodes. Was this like, what? I mean, when is the last time anything has really seemed like it was normal, made sense, was, not ridiculous, or, I'm just going to say it, ass backwards? And when has it been normal, where it seemed like we didn't have the worries of things that have been going on in these past few years, um, anywhere? And it seems like it just doesn't make it makes you question a lot of things. I don't know. Maybe this is just me. Maybe I'm just thinking, um, about it. But that's why I wanted to do the podcast on it, because I wanted to throw the questions out there, and get everybody else's opinion. Because, like I said, I had asked some buddies and I'd asked some friends, like, what do you think, man? Am I like tripping out? And I just laid out everything that I have been, thinking about and reading into and doing, you know, digging deep into some of this stuff that, if you go down one rabbit hole, it leads to another and then to another. And, one thing leads to something else, which is bigger. but it envelops everything. It is a culmination of everything that is literally going on that has been hidden from us. And like I said, it has just made me look into a lot of things that I would step back and go, okay, when I was younger, did I notice this or did I see this? Or was this something that I just happened to be thinking about that now I'm just like subconsciously bringing back up because I saw something, trying to analyze it. And it's like, it's not what I'm trying to make it make sense and, fitting it into this box of a lot of things that I have been trying to put out there to, since, the beginning of me doing this or starting this, and even before then, because I mean, I would talk to a lot of friends that were just, you know, we were able to BS at work and bring up topics when we were at lunch, or hey man, what do you think about this? And people would, some people would laugh at you, but I mean, I've got friends that they were um, really brought into this whole questioning everything mentality. And a lot of people will say that, people that look into this stuff, or people that are so obsessed with a lot of things that, I mean, obviously, if you allow something to, control every day and aspect of your life, you can, it can literally, I mean, it could damage a lot of people, and it has damaged a lot of people because that's all they do. That's all they care about is night and day, night and day. And, they think that, a lot of people think, well, that's how it is for everybody that, is, doing any information seeking, or, trying to do research by looking into things and reading manuscripts or reading into books or going to the library and finding books on subjects and cultures, and how they um, perceive things versus what we have all been taught. And I don't know, I mean, it makes it worthwhile when you if anybody's joining on and they haven't been there before, I'm just giving the spiel because I want everybody to feel welcome and to feel like they're able to share their stories. I don't care what they are, as long as it's not inappropriate and it's not something that's going to be vulgar and discriminating against other people. Yeah, we'll go ahead and talk about it. And like I said, I've had other people that have had the same idea, because I did a show once on Bigfoots and cryptids, and I had a guy that was from New Zealand that had gotten a hold of me and was telling me this story about this creature, like a skunk ape, Sasquatch or whatever they call it out there. And he was just telling me about, him being out where he lives, which he's secluded, this little secluded area, and him seeing this thing or hearing it or being out on his property. It's a life-changing experience. And that's what I mean, is like, people perceive things differently. Experiences influence people differently. My perception on what I believe or what I think, based on what my ideas and what I've seen and experienced and looked into, is not going to be the same as somebody else's. So I'm not going to bash somebody for believing what they believe. As like I said, as long as it's something that's not nonsensical, like, vile things that are, appropriately perceived in somebody's eyes to do things that are horrible because they think it's okay based on an idea, and it's dumb. I don't tolerate that with anybody that will try and manipulate the system or manipulate things to make it seem like what they're doing is justifiable with anything. So I do have a line where, there's things that I will, tolerate, one thing that really gets to me is, people's just blatant disrespect for a lot of things that they have no perception about, and they pass it off as nothing because they've never had to deal with things that takes a lot of fortitude to be able to deal with, and it's not for everybody. My blade, my base, my stance on that is that we take for granted a lot of things in our world and in the world around us that a lot of other people realize and see the effects of it. So I've kind of learned to respect a lot of people's ideas that they share or that they bring to the table. As long as it's something that is not going to be just like, well, I just heard it on the radio, or this and that. It's like, well, where did you look at this stuff? Where did you go to find this research at? Your sources, yada yada. Because even I started up that way. It was like, wanting to learn things, so I would read up on it, or I would look into it, or just try and cram my brain as much as I could about things that I had questions about. And it builds a broader picture, different from what you've always been taught or always been brought up on. So I just wanted to say that, a lot of the stuff that people discuss about things that have been hidden for so long and revealing the things that they're finding or that people are discovering on a constant basis now, that is refuting a lot of things that we thought we knew, that we thought was real. And it has been really crazy, to say the least, to be able to see a lot of this stuff unfold in our lifetime, because it's a culmination of a lot of hard work by men and women all over the world who have pushed the boundaries of getting information, getting more answers to their questions by researching, by investigating, not only just land where a lot of things have taken place, these sites around the world that have mystified humanity for eons, since the beginning of their discoveries, that we are now starting to see a lot of connected dots between what a lot of people like Zachary Sitchin were talking about with the Anunnaki and Göbekli Tepe, which is validating a lot of things that these people were saying back in the days about who we are, what has been here before, the advancements of technologies that these people possessed. The knowledge that they had was something that was not mainstream knowledge for a lot of people because it was hidden. Artifacts, sites around the world, things that they want to keep hidden, that would totally blow the narrative that has been substantiated around the world through many cultures. If you go and you look at a lot of cultures and you think about what they say about the creation stories, it's almost similar in a way. You have stories like the flood, or the stories of people that were like a Moses, or stories of people that were like Joshua. This evidence is something that refutes the notion that these mainstream scholars, these academics, these institutes have been trying to keep hidden for a long time, keep it under wraps, because if it validates what is being said about who we are and where we come from and all these cultures, that would link what they are saying to actual fact. I think these people are really scared because they know that this would blow everything out that we know, literally. But like I said, it doesn't just stop with them taking evidence. It doesn't stop with them trying to stop people from coming out and saying things about, things that they experienced or where they worked or things that they saw or experiences that they've had, or trying to cover up and take these literal physical artifacts that could link us to what our true, real history was like. Because if you look down that rabbit hole of the ancient civilizations that have been here for thousands and thousands, if not millions of years, things that are able to be visible now were not able to be seen then, and vice versa. Things that were seen back then are not visibly able to be seen now because of the changing of the planet, because the way this planet operates, it changes. It takes away and it makes something new, and it makes something new and something gets taken away. The cycle of this planet has gone through its changes, and a lot of academics that are for this information and this knowledge have, said time and time again, there is a period of time where things seem to happen that change humanity's course. And it takes a span of this time where you see things in ancient scripts or ancient scribes that have written down this information and passed this down, and it's like similar throughout all the cultures, that these events have happened in a span of this time period that they have been calculated. And it says something, I think, by 2030 that we will be reaching that time span at 2030, between 2030 and 2055 or something like that. That is why we're seeing a major shift in information coming out that is being given to people bit by bit in these congressional hearings, or you have, warriors who fight constantly. Dr. Stephen Greer and his staff and his crew that have, literally ran the gauntlet of getting, acknowledgement of everything that has been, proven substantial, basically in a court of law. But they can't, the red tape that it would go through to have to get that information, or the people that just don't want it released. But you know what? We forgot something. We forgot to start the show off. So, all right, here it goes. Check it out. We'll be back. All right, cool. Welcome back. Um, but getting back on topic about a lot of things that are being gradually given out to the public, but yet there is so much of history that still remains hidden, classified, plethora of knowledge and technology that could literally change humanity overnight. But it seems like those who have the control over the domination that they are profiting. I mean, to think that there are people or groups or associations in this world that have that power to literally make decisions that either damns, societies or humanity, or have taken control over that knowledge that was once directly given to humanity by the creators or the creator himself. All over these different cultures, you see these tales of these beings that have come from somewhere else, that have given knowledge to these people around the world, taught them mathematics, taught them astronomy, taught them seafaring, taught them how to farm, how to live off of the land, how to harness the energy from the land. But then you have the backside, that you have these beings that were defying what was being done, defiling it, manipulating, deceiving, and wanting payback. They wanted the people that wanted to be free from that society. And you had two factions. It's kind of like on that movie Noah, right? Where you had Noah and his family who were vegetarians. They, did things by the book, so to speak, religiously, because they did not, it's something that they'd been doing since his grandfather Methuselah was around, and before him, Enoch, that people had been living a certain way. But since the time of Adam and Eve and their children, Cain and Abel, which is what we've been told, but they're, like I said, the cultures around the world, there has been two factions since that time when Cain slew Abel. And Cain, I'm just getting into this right now because I'm like I said, everything that I talk about, I give details of why I'm saying it. So just bear with me. I'm sorry. But that's why I wanted to talk about it. Change is only constant. Elaborate, bro. But like I said, I mean, things do happen. Things happen, but it seems that events or things that have happened before this in previous timeline shifts, it seems like things were going on that had caused these events to take place. And to think that since those times that there has been this either deception of humanity or the bringing of knowledge and information that the people of the time either got it or they didn't. Either they heeded the warnings and the lessons or they didn't. And then you had the people that just didn't care. They just did their own things. But the people in control were the ones that were making the decisions. This whole thing with the implementation of why we had this and why things were being done this way, that stuff had to come from somewhere. And like I said, with the teachings that you find in ancient cultures, you see it all the time. They talk about these beings that have shown them these skills, vast skills of knowledge and information, only to watch them succeed. Or you had these sects of groups of people, these cultures that were being deceived by these darker entities, these beings that were manipulating humanity into doing things for their own benefit. And like I said, that's where it goes back into that whole thing of, in the movie Noah, when you see the offspring of Cain descending on Noah, and that's where you get that two rivalry thing going on. It's the good and the bad. Like I said, to think that these powers that have been dominating this planet for so long, to be able to keep this information from humanity and say that they have control over it because they are the ones that are allowed to have this knowledge. So that's why people look. That's why people investigate. That's why people can either let this stuff rule their lives, or it is a passion and something of knowledge and information that they get by looking into it. This is like it says on the podcast, through the truth, through the unknown is where we find the truth. Looking into things that are not normal, looking into things that are outside of our realm of probability, that we would not think of looking into, that we would not think that could possibly be, and then understand that it is probably possible. A lot of things, a lot of information that comes through a lot of reading and talking to people from different cultures, or being in countries and seeing the cultures and asking people about what their thoughts and ideas are, how they deal with, or their thought perception on this whole creation or religion or whatever. And it really is an eye-opener. Because it brings it back to a time when people and their cultures lived a sort of, not superstitious, but a spiritual type people of the earth. That was our life. We were connected to it, we respected it, and there were deities and the beings in which I believe to be these beings that were either helpers or hinderers, herders, manipulators, or knowledge bringers. And that in and of itself is like a literal, depiction of why people say, the good versus evil, and the darkness versus the light, and what is right and what is wrong. Like I said, these things had to have come from something. It just wasn't, oh, well, because this said so. Well, there's things that are ancient, more older, and more profound than what we've been told. So this goes back to what the ancients talk about, these beings who came down here to dominate this planet and rule it. like I said, there's something bigger that is going on. And for a lot of people to be able to see it or understand what is going on through that research and through information or through groups that share the information and pass things along to each other and point each other in the directions that they need to go as far as looking at certain things. I think that the people that have broken through that, mental deception and see things for what they are. Even the media, even news groups around the world are saying all these people that we were sitting here laughing at, that we were talking about, that were, and I hate that word, conspiracy theorists, have been right. There has been something that is going on that is being covered up that they are not telling people. I mean, the JFK thing that's coming out, we're finding out that it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald that killed him. It was really somebody else. To sit here and hear the doctor that actually operated on him and said, yeah, this shot came from the front. So many things. There's still a lot of things that the Great Pyramids, everything that we knew about the ancient world, civilizations that were there, we can't even fathom. These people were probably so way ahead of what we thought they were that we were sitting here just thinking that they're primitive. And they're running power grids for electricity through their villages. Because we know that they have the capabilities of producing power. You've seen it in the pyramids. You've seen it in the pyramids in China. Down in Mexico, in Teotihuacan, Chichen Itza. Is it too far gone to think that there is actually more to everything that we've thought? What is the harm? What is the harm of sitting here and having that ideology? Would you see it being pushed into throughout history with, the plague? You've got the Salem witch trials. You've got the Spanish Inquisition. You've got the conversion of indigenous people all over the world to stop believing, practicing, or teaching their tribes or their fellow countrymen and women anything to do with their culture. And if they did, they would make examples of them. Make that make sense. You go around the world, you literally indoctrinate people with this religion and ideology and tell them that who they are is wrong, to give up all identity of where they come from, any information. And this is after you pillage and plunder and decimate their whole culture and anything to do with the land by stripping it of everything that has any grounding in ancient historical knowledge that you want hidden. That goes for manuscripts, artifacts, relics, bones, actual mummies, actual tombs, actual knowledge and information in the Grand Canyons in Utah, in Nevada, in New Mexico, Arizona, California, Catalina Islands, out in the East. Pyramids here in the United States. How crazy. Landforms that should not be possible to have been done by a people just from the ground. It is something that you would literally have to look at from the top, understand it, take the measurements, and get it all laid out. They did it. How? The information and the knowledge had to be passed down, especially when it comes to astronomical calculations, astrological calculations of how they precisely laid this stuff. Boom. And I mean, so good that the moon or the sun or a constellation passes through, or a certain star or a certain planet literally passes right before or into this void to reveal itself at a certain time of the year. And it's been that way for thousands and thousands of years. Why? These people were so advanced. But they were all connected to the earth. The earth is the key. The earth is the key. The universe. See the things, and they look out in the universe and they see this big black sky with all these stars and these planets. There is nothing that is in this world that is separate from anything on it. At all. It's collective, which is really weird. But once you start looking at things like that, that's when it becomes really interesting. So as I said, a lot of people's perceptions are different. A lot of people who think and see this are probably going, there's no way. That's wrong. Say that, it refutes what we know to be fact. Fact means you have to know something without a shadow of a doubt that there is anything else outside of it that would refute it, because you have the knowledge that it is 100% true. There is nothing that can refute it. That's fact. But there's been so many things that have been claimed to be fact that have just been pushed to the side. So, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Let me know. Let me see. I'm going to put this in here. You guys want to use it, you can. If not, no problem. All right. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? What are your guys' ideas about this? Because it goes into, a lot of things about, ancient cultures that were just being decimated, that, wiped off of the face of the earth, that were very, very knowledgeable, had these diverse connections to these parts of the earth that were considered to be sacred. Ancient Egypt is one of them. But we are now finding out that these pyramids are probably older than the civilizations that ruled them. Think about that. Ancient civilizations with the technology far more advanced than what we are looking at now, because there is a lot of replication. That would take a lot to even try to duplicate. Yet these people were doing it at a time when supposedly there was no advanced technology that even we couldn't even fathom of being able to do it precisely. And it would take things that should not have been in existence back then. I mean, to be able to make a face so symmetrical that you could literally put it in half, lay it on top of the other one, and it would be precise. Precise. Right down to the mill. But yet these cultures should not have been able to possess this technology. We're finding out that there's pillars that are leaving the pyramid, going down into 400 feet of the bedrock. And it's got spiral staircases going down each one of them. And then there's cities, networks, caverns, edifices deep down underneath the pyramids that stretch for miles and miles and miles. And they're saying that this has, I mean, there was speculation before, but there's no doubt now. Something was happening. Somebody was here. The evidence is irrefutable. Now it becomes a question of who and when and where. Where did these beings come from? Where did these other civilizations get this knowledge from? Who gave it to them? Where did they get it? Was there any of this stuff that was left behind for us to actually salvage? Is this why when we were, I was talking about this last time about, artifacts being destroyed during, the war in the Middle East, that you've seen a lot of this stuff being destroyed, but it was like, okay, I get you, you're literally defacing something. I think to me, like I said, it was just all a setup. It was just a thing that was happening that had always happened before throughout civilization. One band of people conquer another, and they decimate their culture and leave no stone unturned and try to eradicate every possible tie to these people in this culture ever existing. And taking the things that were going to benefit you to build your empire, your kingdom, and allow your empire to thrive based on the knowledge and information that you received from those the civilizations and the cultures that you ended up destroying. I don't know why this thing does that, but anyway. And it's just really crazy because when you look through all the stuff that has happened, and you see it even now, like I said, and in this, the Middle East war was not that long ago. Just think of all the things that were being discovered. Think of all the things that were being investigated by government officials or agencies or whatever. Okay, whatever. So yeah, just being all over the place. And like I said, again, I mean, this leads up even to the present time that we know now through the bits of information that we've had throughout history of this contact between the people on this plane and these beings that come from somewhere else that were technologically advanced, that were way far knowledgeable on subject matter than what we were capable of being. And you have these certain individuals or people that are gifted with these gifts that seem very complex for a person of their time to be able to have these abilities, these skill sets, this knowledge of information. They're like gifted people, but they're seen as weird, and a lot of times, especially back in those days, it was not good to be different or weird, because if you started saying or talking about things, you would be tortured and investigated because of the information or knowledge that you were trying to talk about. So a lot of these people back in the days had to write in code, had to draw in code, had to make their manuscripts in code and live a secret life to be able to have this knowledge and information of things or whatever that were passed down, that they were in charge of being the keepers of. So the suppression of this stuff has been happening for so long. Imagine everything that would change if the information got out. That would literally change the world. Economies, healthcare systems, governments, everything would change. And it's like like we had talked about in previous um, episodes, is that the people who have literally put themselves in harm's way to get this knowledge and information out to the people through whatever means they had to, a lot of people were silenced. A lot of people were unalived. A lot of people had their lives changed, have been thrown incarcerated, maximum security prisons over things that are not anything that has anything to do. They want to make it a thing of government secrecy, or these people are trying to incite some sort of insurrection or false narrative, or argumentation about whatever. So they spin a narrative. I mean, look at Julian Assange. The man was in hiding almost all his life because of the information that he was putting out there, that was literally showing the faces of all the corrupt people and the corrupt institutions and things that were happening in the world. Blatant, pretty much just calling them out. Hey, can you explain this and tell us that you're talking about all this stuff you're doing and all this stuff that isn't real, but here's the evidence, and it's been covered up by people like you. That people are silenced for what they say or do or explain or talk about has been something that is, for people to be silenced over this stuff, you know, for uncovering or talking about things. Somebody said once that, when you're poking around and it starts pissing a lot of people off, or people start, it starts affecting them, you're on the right path. Because if people didn't have anything to say about what you're looking into, they would be like, yeah, let's go check those archives out. Let's go look at those files that you're saying that, have this information, so that way we can let the American people really see what's going on. No, they won't do that. It'll stay hidden forever, because those who control it can control people, can control the narrative, can control the outlook or the outcome of what is happening around us day in and day out. And it's sad that people have to die. Innocent people that are only curious or trying to understand outside of this realm of possibility or life that we have been taught to. They want to make a difference. They want to share the information. They want to bring people's awareness of what is going on, and make people aware of things. Healthcare system, our environment. the blatant lying and inoculating people based on false allegations of, false health instructions to deceive so many people. I mean, so many people have been affected by this stuff for centuries, and we see it all the time. But like I said, people who look into these things have literally been right about so many of them. So again, I ask the question, what would happen? How would this literally affect everything that we know if this was to come out? And it was like, yes, this is all true. Yes, this is what really happened. Here's the evidence. We don't need to depend on fossil fuels anymore. We don't need to depend on combustible motors. We have an alternate energy source that would sustain and be able to free everybody to live without tying themselves down to the stuff that has been keeping us enslaved for so long. What's so wrong with that information being given to the people? Because it would not benefit those who are profiting from it. There's no cure in the medicine. It's just there to just make you think you're going to get better. It's kind of like that process of somebody that is telling you that you're sick, you're weak, your body's no good, that you are just degrading you to the point where your body cells react to it, and it affects you. So you go to these people that are supposed to be doctors, that are supposed to be healing you and taking care of you and giving you this right information. But you find yourself back in the seat again a few months later or whatever for the same thing. And it's like, well, the medicine you gave me worked, but it wasn't really like effective because it still came back. Oh, well, here's these pills, they're $700. Your insurance will pay for it, but your copay is going to be blah, blah, blah. And it makes your insurance go through the roof. Go figure. Instead of going through what a lot of holistic people before us in our cultures and where we come from, that relied on the earth for everything, that everything that we needed came from it. There is nothing else that we need to sustain ourselves. We could literally live off of what the earth gives us. But the greed for more has become man's sin. Take what is naturally given to us, manipulate it, destroy it, infect it, alter it for whatever good, horrible whatever reasons they want to do. I don't know. I'm just ranting and raving. So what do y'all think? And speaking of technologies and ideas and things that people try to bring to the forefront of everybody's perception, is that you have people like Bob Lazar who claimed that they worked in a position of great accessibility to these otherworldly beings and craft that were apprehended by the government. and they wanted them to reverse engineer it in order for it to work. They did have some that worked, he said, but it wasn't the way they wanted to. There was more that they needed to figure out. Hold on. All right, sorry. Ooh, I had to sneeze. So yeah, I don't know. Reverse engineering technologies, and this is the thing: is yes, that in and of itself is insane. The other thing of this that a lot of people don't grasp, grasp is that these things had to have come from somewhere else. They didn't come from here. Where did they come from? And the fact that these things are more advanced than us by far. I mean, they're interstellar. They are traveling galaxies. They come from other galaxies, for Christ's sake. And the notion that these things are hostile. Granted, I'm pretty sure there probably are some that are. It's not like they're all walking around with, flowers and beads in their hair. But these things are far superior than we are. And if they are far superior, what is going to stop them from doing whatever they wanted to do? If they were going to come here and destroy this planet, destroy civilization, what are we going to stop them with? These things have the power to shut down nuclear warheads and just take off in their little spacecraft like nothing. They are literally able to bend space and time. Could they be from the future? I don't know. This is the question. But the interesting thing about it is that we can figure it out somehow by researching, looking into this stuff. With everything. But like I said, it's really cool because it's real. People talk about it, they see it, they've experienced it. One of the things that I also wanted to talk about was, the ideologies around the world, and within the United States, within Canada, within Mexico, within the Caribbean, anywhere. You have lore that has surrounded so many different types of beings or deities that we're talking ancient. And is it just a thing of being just that it's just lore, it's just stories that are passed down to warn people of their bad habits or doing things that are wrong or doing things that they know that if they do them, they're going to be consequences for their actions? So these things, these deities, these mystical creatures are nothing more than tales. But if that's the case, then how do you explain the eyewitness accounts? How do you explain the evidence left behind at certain places? There was a dispatch radio call to law enforcement that this man was saying that there was a being that jumped into the back of his car, his truck. And he's like, telling the dispatch, this thing's beating on my truck, it's beating on my truck or whatever. And at one point he says, that's not human. That is not effing human. And I guess he stepped on the brakes and this thing rolled over the cab of his truck and he could see it. And that's what he was saying is this thing is not, it's not human. Whatever this is, it's not human. And he's freaking out. And the sheriff is saying, yes, this audio has not been altered in any way. This is what the call sounded like. And it came in. We went out there and yes, there was physical signs that something had jacked up his cab, his truck. It looked like there had been something that was there or had taken place, just like he said. Legends, folklore. Are these things that are just, passed down, or could there just be something that is tangible evidence that is right there that we don't see because we have just been taught to think, well, this is just a story. But what if there was a time where these things, these deities, these beings, this worship, this way of life that was back then was based in some sort of factual way of life, that it was real, which is why they did what they did. Or, like I said, was it just a way for those who were in power to keep those who were below them in check? Give your tithes to the church. Bring your sacrificial offering to the temple, or else. Putting the fear into people through things in order to keep your power over them. That's where I get to, because that's what it seems like. And it's like breaking free of that and just realizing that there are things that we can explain. Doesn't mean that they're not real, doesn't mean that they don't exist. We just don't understand it, and it freaks people out. And when anything freaks you out, what is the first thing you want to demonize it? You want to make it evil. So this is where we get to society demonizing anything that people say that could refute anything that they say is fact. You have people like Admiral Byrd, whose credibility led him to the war cabinet, led the biggest expedition, was a aviation master in his craft. In the time he was there, he was a young man, but he, had multiple accounts with things that he could not explain. But does that make it not credible? Does it make it false? No. The man is sitting here making his claim and stating what he was saying, and he said it on TV. He said it in what was allegedly his diary that was found. But the fact that the man literally said the thing that he did and had so much credibility beforehand, as soon as he let that stuff out, he was looked at as a nut job. How many times do we constantly see this narrative? Constantly. The way for people to keep being controlled is to stay dumb. Don't question things. Don't ask about nothing. Just live your life and suck it up. If you ask anything about what's going on, or you ask about things that you should not be talking about, there's going to be consequences. That's usually how it works. You see it all the time. Can you wait for me? But that's why I said it's like, I've always had this inkling that things were just not right. And that's the words I've used since I was little. I brought this up to my mom plenty of times, and I've talked to her, and I've said, there's just something else out there. But it was always based, the response was always based in a religious narrative, always, to try and explain things. But it didn't add up to me. It just didn't. I remember being 8 years old and being at church, because we were living in Germany, Baptist church. I remember being in Sunday school, and I remember asking them if Adam and Eve were the first human beings that their son came to the table. and he left. And the creator asked him, "What did you do? Why does your brother's blood cry from the ground?" And he said, I slew my brother because you loved him more than me. And now I am fleeing and I'm going into the land of God, where he found it. And he says, if people know I have done it, so the creator said that he was going to mark him. And anybody that's seen that mark knew that they were going to harm him. Sounds like a brand, right? Like cattle. This cow belongs to me. Do not touch it. Attack. Something to warn of other people about being God or a being that was so revered that when they seen that mark, they knew that they had better not defy it at all. Because if they did something to what was not theirs, that belonged to a being, they surely knew that they were going to have to answer for it. That's, don't worry about it. I got you. I'll put a mark on you so they won't hurt you. Okay. And I remember asking, if they were the first people here, then how is it that he was able to leave and marry a wife in another town? There was no other places. Eden was the birthplace of humanity. I had those questions since I was 8 years old. What kind of a kid sits there and talks about that? It's like, I had questions about the giants, and it talks about the giants in the days of Noah and before them. And it talks about the fallen angels and the watchers. The Rephaim, the watchers, the fallen angels, the cast outs. These guiders of the human race. And as I said, that shifted because the experience of Cain's evil. He didn't know what evil was. He didn't know what evil was, but he knew he had done something wrong, and it wasn't good. I think the creator kicked him out and told him he was never to come back again. Mingle with them. You want to be like them? Go. And from his bloodline, you see so many crazy things that have happened. So they did have more kids. So I always questioned that. It always stuck in my head. I always thought about that. I always, Noah's Ark, the ship that they told every single freaking animal on the planet. If anything, I could see it being like a data bank. The essence of all living creatures. We look at it and it's translated when it says essence. Collect the essence of every living creature. Male and a female. As I said, the stories and these ideas that people think that they have this notion of knowing that these things are fact. Because there's more to the picture. There's more to all of what's going on. programming that they've been dealt the entire time they've been subjecting themselves to things, ideologies. You can see the broader scope outside of it. Because it makes you realize, makes you question. What? Yeah, I don't know. You guys tell me. What else? Yeah, there's so many things that it is that is far more that is knowledgeable, the person that has information that is refuting the ideologies, indoctrinations, mechanisms that they put into place in this question, not only authority, but the authoritarian system, to see it as a controlling power that goes into that. It's really fascinating, like I said, to see people that you share things with, and then they come around, however long it takes them. Like, man, you're right. It's a trip. You can't make people see. You can't make people understand. You can't make people realize and wake up from the illusion that is what you think it is. And all you can do is just give them information. Look it up. Check it out. See for yourself. Do your own due diligence by going out and researching things and finding out those answers on your own. We can point you to them. Wait, I'm not going to do it. I love that Billy Carson says that. When I first started watching him after getting onto Gaia years ago and watching some of the shows, he would always tell everybody, I can only give you this information and you have to do exactly like I did, just to go out and find this stuff. Because it's there. You just have to look for it. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. The symbolisms, the imageries, the mathematics, the calculations, it's everywhere. The information, the data, the technology, everything is there. And people are literally trying to decode this stuff because they want to know, because it matters. It means something. It means more to the story. It needs a broadening of information that will literally point us in the right directions that we need to be going into. For a lot of people, accept that it's not a plausible outcome for them. To change their ideas about topics that we discuss or situations. Because you can't that transition. It's like a shift has happened, and you're like getting this information that is just coming to you, but you don't understand it. You kind of do what you do. You're starting to realize like things that you were seeing. Everything just doesn't make sense in your questions. You're not alone, obviously. You know, understand what's happening. Realize it. You know, and for people to think that they are pushed out because we know that there's other people who feel the same way and experience these things as well. So we want to be able to keep that community of knowledge and information to those who can get it and keep it not to themselves, but to share it with other people. In a time of information and knowledge, people will easily choose the easier course rather than going out and going and researching and talking to, going to places and seeing things. But there's a lot of people, and I think people like Graham Hancock are one of those people. The fascination with the idea that there was something more grand, profoundly altering that is in ancient civilizations and cultures that defies everything that we thought that we knew about these cultures and societies and this technology is literally just blowing everything we know out of the water. There's so much information, there's so much stuff that's happening that is being revealed, and the information is coming out little by little, but it is happening. Which is cool. But, yeah, if anybody's got any questions or wants to say anything, I'll wait a couple minutes and then I'll wrap it up. I'd love to share information like I used to on the podcast, where I would place videos or whatever. But until I get my internet, it's gonna be pretty hard. But anyway, I appreciate everybody that's been following the podcast since I started it. Next month will be 2 years that I've had this thing going. And this is episode 61, the last week of November. And with that, I just want to say thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all for coming along and listening and ranting about topics and subject matter and whatnot. So, with that, I am going to say goodnight. So, and we'll do it again and get another topic. Dive into some more deep stuff. I know it's late because it's Friday night, so I'm not gonna keep you. And we'll talk about some more crazy stuff next week. See ya.